here. This is the I like to call this the show before the show. This is the pre-show, if you will. 2 Davids, 1 show. This is what you're getting. David Bear in the house. What's up, David? How are you?
How we doing?
Well, we're just gonna call you Bear because that's gonna cause mass confusion.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Makes it easier.
So as we go on here, we are going to be live in a variety of places right now. We're going to be live on, assuming everything worked, I mean, I didn't break something, right? We are live on Facebook. We're going to be live on YouTube. We're going to be live possibly on Twitch if things didn't break today. Do you know what I mean? So that's good. So I'm going to go in. I'm going to share this really quickly with our players. I always like to send them in Messenger to our group chat. So I'm going to send that. And I know, David, you're going to probably share it to your squads all over the place here. So I'm going to send that. And we should be good. And folks, as you come in here on this live show, let us know if you can hear us. Everything's good. I can see people coming on here as we see on here live, David. We'll be able to see comments here on the right side that we will display. The good, bad, the ugly, right? So make sure you can hear us. David, a little fun fact as we get into this. This is one of our not first live shows, but first, show like with a guest live, is that you'll be able to see, for example, you can see that now, right? You can see Misty Leslie saying everything good. Brandon Cashwell's here for Bear. That's right. We wanted a ratings increase.
That's a man right there, Brandon Cashwell.
Do you know what I mean? So that's why I brought you in here today. But for folks that are joining right now, we're gonna kind of get into it here. It's gonna be a lot of fun. This is episode number 54 of the Siteman Softball Podcast. So 54 weeks in a row here of the podcast, Mr. Bear. Joined by heralded pitcher and also can play the middle too, apparently. David Bear in the house. Most recently taking second at A-Worlds with Addictive, which was a team, we got a lot to talk about here. We got a lot to go through. But David, before we even get into some sponsor stuff, some other stuff, the other cool stuff that's going on here as everyone's coming flying in here. Addictive last year, very interesting. You made a little bit of a journey last year, right? Started S&E,
yep,
Anarchy, Addictive. Well, I want to ask, how did you end up on Addictive?
So Addictive, funny enough, Brandon Miller, who I believe he's been on one of your shows before.
Of course.
On the Hit and Sit. So Brandon and I are pretty good friends. Mark Patterson and I are pretty good friends. And when things kind of happened with Anarchy, it just so happened to be that I was like, Brandon, like, hey, like, I don't really have a spot right now. Like, I don't really mind waiting a little bit, but, if I like, do you have somewhere that you'd recommend? And he's like, hold on. 45 minutes later, he's like, you're going to get a phone call from Steven from Addictive. Because, they were in a situation they kind of needed a pitcher. And he's like, all right, cool. Mm-hmm. Next thing you know, Steven's calling me and is like, hey, man, we want you. And I was like, you know what? Y'all just played us to the Smoky. You just beat us. And I already know that you have a pretty good squad. I played you once in Florida, played you at the Smoky. I already know you got enough power to make a run in Florida. So, yeah, let's do it.
And what was your – so when did you actually go to Addictive, give or take?
So let's see here. I don't remember what week Michigan was supposed to be.
Okay, so not exact week, but like we're talking.
Yeah. It was right around the Michigan time period for that event.
Got it.
Can't remember. It was like 2 or 3 weeks after Smoky. 2 weeks. Okay,
2 or 3 weeks after Smoky. Come in there. What was your experience like on that team?
Man, it was great. Those guys, I'm telling you, like, I love the guys with S&E, fit in really well. Love the guys with Anarchy, fit in well. But, like, the guys with Addictive, it was just, like, there's a lot of youth there, a lot of folks that have a lot of ability to go up but haven't really got that taste yet. And they just welcomed me with open arms and said, hey, man, like, we're going to hop on the back. Like, you get us where you can get us. I'm with it,
Yeah, it was interesting because, like, last year we probably crossed in a ton of tournaments. Addictive and Siteman Pure played in a ton of tournaments. And until the very last tournament, literally, before Worlds, which was the last chance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not only did we never cross paths, like meaning, we didn't play each other, right? Addictive and Siteman Pure. But I always feel like we were playing at the same time or all the way across the park or something ridiculous. So, like, the entire year – I feel like I didn't get a good look at you guys. You know, I saw your record. I saw you, I remember hearing the cheers in Texas. This was before you were on the team, obviously, where they took down Rismondo. I remember hearing stuff like that. And I remember seeing throughout the year a very good record as things went on and some ups and downs, right? But I didn't know anything. Like it was like a weird thing. And, it was funny then, boom, I'm sure you guys believed in it, but, expectations going into Worlds, obviously end up in second. But what's kind of your take on the World Tournament for you guys this year?
Well,
and for you.
I mean, from a World standpoint, I'm not going to say that that some of the comments made on Hit and Sit didn't make it into the group chat. But, there's a little bit of bulletin board material.
It's a good thing.
Some folks, said some things we know. Nobody wanted to pick us. I get it. We weren't necessarily the highest finishing team in a lot of tournaments, things like that. But if you look at like strength of schedule, like we were like 3.9 something. You had to be either a really high AA or a major team to have that strength of schedule or higher. Like we were way up there. Not necessarily a super busy schedule. So, that's why one of the reasons why people didn't really see us, because, when you don't play for a month and a half or so, you out of sight, out of mind, that kind of thing. But when it came to Worlds, like I told the guys before the tournament, and I'll say it the PG way, I was like, when you are the PC way, I go PG, PC, both of them. But I was like, guys, everybody like watches this hit and sit stuff. People on Old Scout like pick who they want to pick, whatever the pick'ems, like all that. Nobody picks us. That should give you a little bit of a FU mentality, and we should carry that every single time we walk across the lines. And I was like, I told the guys, some of them, like they're good friends with Leaf. I'm good friends with Leaf. I like him, that stuff.
For
like
sure.
They got their Anarchy bats and like some of the, obviously we weren't going to play competitive edge, so they didn't have to worry about the Suncoast side. But I was like, I don't care who's on the other side. I don't care if they bring you bats. I don't care if we play a Louisville Slugger team. I don't care. In between the lines for those 7 innings or less, assuming we cut you in 4 or 5, it's totally F you guys. Like this is our field. This is what we're doing. We're here to win this, and that's it.
And obviously, it worked out well. I mean, you didn't win it, but you got close. The joke, I love Leaf and those guys too, but the joke is you were the highest finishing A team at A Worlds. So good job finishing second. But that is the joke. We'll talk about bumps and things going up there as well here in a minute. Before we get into more here, David, I want to do a couple things. I got a couple little things I'm going to make sure, some business to take care of on the show here real fast. Number one, for those that are just tuning in your first time, second time, whatever, 54th time watching the show, sitemansoftball.com/podcast is where you can see all the places to listen audio-wise, right? On video, we're on Facebook, on my page, facebook.com/David Garland, Siteman Softball Nation on Facebook, and we're also just new to YouTube, so Siteman Softball on YouTube. Not new channel, but new. We're new being active with it. It's been around, but it hasn't been used. So Siteman Softball on YouTube, and also we are on Twitch. We were just joking about this before we went on. I don't know anything about Twitch. Hopefully we're on Twitch. I signed up. They might have been like, you're too old. Do you want me to be on Twitch? They might kick me out of Twitch. I don't really know how it works.
Too old or the wrong gender, one or the other.
Yeah, we're the cool kids. The cool kids are on Twitch, I think. So we should be on a channel in there called Siteman Softball on Twitch, or we're going to get banned by, whatever happens on Twitch. I have no idea. So we should be on there. So we're kind of building that up. New episodes every single Tuesday. Now, quick little thing I want to show here on the screen is I got a little a sponsor plug. And Dan, I'll put you on the spot. We didn't even talk about this beforehand before I even do our little sponsor plug today, because today's episode is brought to us by our good friends at the Siteman Cancer Center. But something we talk about, a lot throughout the year, getting away from softball, is just how everyone is, it's unfortunate, but everybody's affected by cancer in some way. It's just, you can't, this wasn't so true a few decades ago, right? Yep. But now you can't go through anywhere where you're like, it's not a friend or someone or something like that. I'm just curious, do you have anyone that, that you want to share that was maybe personally affected?
These nice little wristbands have been on my arm since the event in Tennessee 3 years ago for USA Softball. I mean, I don't necessarily know a lot of individuals personally that have been directly have either gotten cancer or whatever it may be. To be quite frank, working in the medical field for quite some time, I get kind of desensitized to a lot of things.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
It's a crushing thing, like to hear that diagnosis.
Yep.
Yeah, I've had thyroid problems my whole life. Had some issues here and there. There's a point I had some issues in the sinus cavities, and I thought that something was going on. My MRI came back, and I was freaking out. So I get it, but man, every time that you see somebody got cancer, man, like Rick from Smash It Sports,
yeah, great example.
Man,
yeah.
Great person. It's one thing I've always been told is no matter what happens from a medical standpoint, if you can keep your mind on the positive side of things, it allows you to have a better chance. And I really try to push that with anybody that I see that gets diagnosed or anything like that. And I don't even have to know you. If you're friends with David and you see this stuff on YouTube or Twitch or Facebook or whatever, and you've got something medically going on, and you're just like, you know what, I really got to talk to somebody, and send me a friend request, send me a message, talk it out, man. I'll sit here and listen to anybody. I'm good with it. Just know you're not the only ones there. We got a lot of people to support.
It's not discriminating. And let me share something that I've learned about anything, because these are not fun things to think about, right? We're going to get back to joking and fun and softball here in a quick minute, but not fun things to think about. But what I can tell you is something that you should do is get educated, right? And I want to share something here really quickly here on the screen. You guys can see this here right now. This is really interesting. This is called Learning with National Leaders. And you can check this out at learningwithnationalleaders.com, okay? It is absolutely free online events where you can come and you can learn from leading researchers and educators and doctors and physicians in the cancer field to learn about different things. So, for example, they've had ones on gynecological, breast cancer, reconstructive surgery, brain cancer, and there's one coming up here Wednesday, October 26th. So tomorrow, it's free to attend. That's presented by Siteman Cancer Center, and you can check that out. Learning with National Leaders. They're going to be doing brain cancer and proton therapy events. So just want to share that. We're spreading awareness. We have a lot of fun on the show, but we also, if we can help out one person, I feel like that's a win. So thank you to Siteman Cancer Center. Now we'll get back at goofing around here a little bit. Dave, first of all, besides the dog, I heard the dog barking.
Give me 1 second. I got to reply to the kid at the door.
You got it. Go ahead. So as David goes here in a second, he's got a dog barking in the house. That's called live TV, my friends, which is no problem whatsoever. As he comes back, what do you got going on?
Two kids out there waiting to try to play with my kid. He's, in the neighborhood, they the same two kids every day. Just ring the doorbell. Hey, we want to play.
I like it. That's like old school style. Kids coming over to play. I like it. The crutches behind you.
Yep.
We got some crutches. Tell us what happened there. Where'd the injury come from?
ACL reconstruction with meniscus repair. I tore my ACL in May playing basketball in a local league. Unfortunately,
wasn't softball.
Yeah, unfortunately, an individual that plays, I don't know if you ever played basketball, but when you run under somebody on a layup or a dunk or anything, you run through.
Mm-hmm.
This individual didn't run all the way through. He just kind of stopped underneath me, and the next thing you know, knee hit, and as soon as it turned, it's popped, and I couldn't. It was no good. Luckily, it was just the ACL. So I played the vast majority of the year with the torn ACL. And then in the if game of the A Worlds, I hit a ground ball to the middle, and I believe it was Zane backhanded, threw it across to Rich over at first. Richie went to catch it, but the throw pulled him. And, I'm in the middle of the A World if game. I'm not thinking I'm going to give myself up. So I'm trying to make an athletic move. And my niece said, no, we're not doing that today. And sure enough, when I went to go to surgery, I told my surgeon, I was like, pretty sure this meniscus is torn too. And when I woke up, yep, it was torn in quote unquote a terrible spot, which is lovely to hear from an orthopedic
That's
surgeon.
the first thing you want to hear. It's in a really bad spot, and it's going to suck. But the surgery's done.
Yep, surgery's done.
You're on the road to rehab.
Yep.
And we've talked about this, ourselves. We've talked about this off camera, but, planning on playing next year. It's a question of when anything, right? Depending on how the rehab goes. It could be, maybe things are very fortunate to be earlier in the season, or it could be a little bit later, but you're on the road to recovery, right?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, the timeline-wise, it's assuming that everything goes correctly. My timeline puts me back full speed at the duel.
Okay.
I'm not necessarily going to say I would want to go to the duel because, that's where that's a very grueling tournament to come back to. But, I definitely – I don't think that my body or my mind yet is quite done with softball, so I definitely want to get back to it.
I love it. And I know right now, I'm not going to reveal anything here because it's not the we should have it. I was joking with someone that we just signed about a week ago that we should get here on the podcast, have like the different hats. You put on the hats. Do you know what I mean? Of where you're going, you know what I mean? Pull the old decision 2023. For those that don't know that are just tuning into this, right now is chaos time in conference softball. It's chaos. The Major World Series is over. Everyone becomes a free agent, essentially. I'm putting that in air quotes, the next day, right? So imagine this in other sports. I mean, it's like, okay, it's done, right? Now you can sign players for next year. Now I want to share with everybody here that don't know a little bit behind the scenes about how this works. It is improved, in my opinion, from the past, where now what UTRIP recommends, and this is what we do, is you have a contract with the team and you. Right? Yep. And different teams are going to have different contracts. Like we have a personal services contract. We have a code of conduct contract. We have things like that the guys sign, right? Which is committing their spot in a legal document, right? Mm-hmm. We want that first. But then the problem has always been in the past is now you got to get there from there to the roster. Because essentially, unless someone's on the roster, right, you're going to have trouble. Used to be, can't put anyone on there till January, right? Because of the system, USSSA can't do anything, right? Yep. USSSA changed it this year, a few weeks ago. This is great. Where now you can add people to your binding roster for next year now. Yep. It's set up as a pickup team, but then it is considered, boom, you're on the roster now. So people are going around and getting people, and we're having our contract signed right now. We have a few more pieces to put in place, but a lot going on. Now, I know you've got a lot of offers up there, but correct me if I'm wrong, no decision yet, right? You want to wait on some rehabs and different things to know, right? Is that what we got going on?
I've had some teams speak to me about next year. I've got several different folks that have contacted me, but I'd like to be very upfront with what's going on. Like, hey, I don't know for sure because right now I'm in an immobilizer. Like, I haven't even went to my first physical therapy appointment yet. I was like, I told everybody point blank, you're not going to get a yes, no, maybe so until November 1st because that's when I go to my first physical therapy. After that, depending on timelines, where we can talk about when's going to happen, but
got it. So
not before then.
Kind of in that crazy. So a lot of different options going on here for you. And I'm curious also when you go into a team, any team wherever you end up this year, do you like to see yourself as? I know pitchers a lot of times are naturally. Or do you like to see yourself as want to be in that leadership part of whatever team you're on?
Yes and no. It depends on the situation. If I were to be contacted by, this obviously has not happened, but let's say Resi, for example. Say, Brett Helmer calls me and says, hey, I want you to come be with us. I want you to back up Clark, yada, yada, yada. I don't expect to be in a leadership role in that standpoint.
Right. You're going to be just a player there.
Exactly. Yeah. I want to be the guy that's supposed to do his job, all that good stuff.
Right.
But a situation, if it's a team, even if it's a consistent A team that's been there for a long time, up and coming A team, whatever, in several cases, a lot of double A teams, like I do want to have that leadership role, but realistically, a lot of that comes down to the same positions. Your pitcher, your middleman, your center fielder, those that's all critical. Have to have, like they have a lot of say so. The middle of your field is very important, and they all should be able to direct individuals and a leadership aspect is a very key important part of those three different positions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And obviously you have to be kind of a little bit of a chameleon depending on the situation, which makes sense. By the way, something that was announced today, for those that didn't see it, tomorrow. So tomorrow, 11 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Central. That is the 26th. There's going to be Hit and Sit, episode number 17, live. It's going to be a live one, second live one, on the USSSA, God help us, Slow Pitch page on Facebook, which is facebook.com/USSSA Slow Pitch. Now, here's what's interesting. A couple of interesting fun facts about this one, David. Number one, I don't have it yet. Don't ask me. But we will be going over the men's and women's major and major watch list tomorrow live. I don't have them yet, but I will have them. And we will be going through that. We're going to talk about rumored major rosters. We're going to do a double A, talk about double A. We got a lot to talk about, David, on that show tomorrow. And by the way, before I share one more interesting fun fact about the show tomorrow, let's talk about, you told me something interesting about bumps. We were talking about this. We don't know 100% about what's going on, but tell me what the rule, I'm putting that in air quotes because we're not 100% sure here, but the rule on bumps as it relates to the Major World Series.
So my understanding from several individuals, I'm not going to necessarily put all their names out there because some of them might not want their name out there, but my understanding is that if you qualify for the Major World Series, you should, at the beginning of next year, assuming that you bring 70% of your team back, you should be immediately double A or higher. Obviously, major is going to be an automatic major, but if you were A, you are automatically double A. If you were B, you probably should have been A when you made the major, but you should be double A, assuming you bring back 70% of your team.
Okay, so just to repeat that, make sure I got it right? Qualify for the Major World Series. You are now going to be a minimum of double A next year, right? Yep. Assuming, and this is the key part, you're bringing back 70% of your roster, right? Because we saw Coach Steven from Addictive was like, welcome to double A, even though, guys, Addictive's not a team next year. Yep. It was pretty funny chat. I love watching those. And everyone said, coming in, congrats on your success, which I know is the inside competitive edge.
Oh, yeah.
Shenanigans, Brandon Miller. But I saw that and I was like, I didn't see a bump list. I didn't see any. I was just curious because I didn't know anything. And it's interesting. So 70% of the players. Now, what's interesting is that Rock Run has caused a little bit of a shenanigans by what they've done here because in theory, based on past, and again, I don't see this in a concrete written down. If so, we could be like, okay, there it is. Then we could be like black or white, right? So it's a little gray. Which is a whole other conversation for another time. But in theory, in the past, if you're a B team making the major, you get bumped to A.
Yep.
Right? They were not. So they played B. They played A. I thought they were going to play double A too. Why not? You're down there. Major, I was expecting them to show up at C, seniors, whatever. Another everything. But my point being is that was something that we all assumed didn't happen. Okay. Now the question is going to be, does that happen? Does the next part of this happen? Does it happen with does it happen? Should they be double A? In theory, the answer would be yes, based on what we're seeing.
If you look at their record throughout last year, and I am a big fan of the whole, they built the team the right way. They worked up the hill like they're supposed to. They started D or E like 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. Then they just worked up the hill.
They were E and then they skipped over D. They were E and then they were C and then they dominated there. Yeah, they've been dominating every level they played. Yeah.
So, they did great. They played very well throughout the year. They in Chicago, because we had to play them when I was with Anarchy. They just had beat, I believe, Resi and then MPT, or maybe it might have been like the other way around. But either way, they just knocked off 2 major teams. And they were consistently in games. And I'm pretty sure this is correct, but I believe they finished top 5 in the B, the A, and the major.
Not in the major. Oh, meaning at the finals.
Yep, they finished top 5 in all 3 of those, right?
They might have. I want to look that up.
I'm pretty sure they were either 5th or tied for 5th in the major. And I know they were top 5 in the A because they finished 4th in the A because Nitro was 3rd, we were 2nd, and Anarchy won. And in the B, I'm pretty sure they were 5th.
I know. You know the one that I'm thinking. I'm gonna have an answer here in a second. But like the one I was like, what I was thinking about, the odd one is the B. I know because I know they finished 3-2 at the major.
Yep.
They were a lot in 2 in A. which I think and then in B, they were 3-2.
Yeah, but
I don't know.
they lost late. I think they lost the round of 8 against True.
Right. You might be right on that.
I mean, that put them pretty far into the loser bracket, but
you're right. They were tied for 5th in B.
See, so there you go. So, I mean, yes, they did not win the B World. True Sports was absolutely on a tear.
Yep.
I don't think anybody was going to beat True in the B.
They were going.
They were great.
They were going.
In the A, they, maybe they ran out a little bit of steam, whatever it may be. Nitro came out unreal against them, and then came over to the white quad, and next thing you know, Anarchy and Nitro are fighting in a 10-5 pillow fight. So that was weird, but, they still did a great job there. And then in the major, as much as the balls might have been an issue in the major, and it honestly played into their strength, still, you finished top 5 in the major, and you're a B team. My question is, because this is it's an endless debate, right? It's one of those debates because it's such a weird situation, right? And the question is that I had, and again, maybe this is for the future too. I mean, if there's another Rock Run situation, right? Does a team like that followed the rules? Yep.
They didn't have 6 chips or something. Do you know what I mean? In fact, they had 0, right? Followed the rules, came up, did very well. Okay. The question is, does that deserve, based on quality of play, should they have gotten a midseason bump, do a thing like that? What's kind of your thoughts? How would you have handled it? You're in the chair. You're in the chair. You have a special hat on. We take off the Louisville Slugger hat. We put on Commissioner Bear hat.
Yep.
What's your thought on how that should have been handled?
The precedent that was set bumping S&E from A to AA, not this past year,
year before.
But the year before.
Yep.
When you set that precedent from an A to a AA, if a B team is having consistent success against AA and major, they are not B. Mm-hmm. Hold on, my kiddos.
You got. We'll have a pause for the dog and the kids. There we go. Back.
But yeah, so I mean, if you are having consistent success at the AA or major level as a B team, you're not a B team. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, that's not the case. So in my opinion, after Chicago, yes, they built the team correctly, but after Chicago, when you have just beaten 2 major teams, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I'm pretty sure it was a short game on Resi. So I don't think it went all 7. I think it went all 7 with MPT, but I think it was a short game on Resi.
It was a short game on Resi.
I think it was.
I want to say it was 5. I'm not kidding.
Yes. So if you can do that, you're not a B team. Okay. You're not a B team. I mean, it's that simple. Now, don't get me wrong. I also think that that's mainly because of the precedent that was set from S&E, because S&E had a lot of success at smaller events last year. Yeah, they played well against major teams. They played well at the duel, stuff like that. But if you're going to say that our success level is based on your quality of play, Rock Run 100% deserves to be bumped. And it's not a negative thing to be bumped. They were competitive at levels higher than they were classified.
Right. And so the question is that I have looking forward, there's always a question I think it's fun to ask on the show, is kind of going in the commissioner's seat, if you will. Do you know what I mean? And sitting there and thinking about these things, is that I've seen a lot of interesting ideas thrown out about classifications and how things might work and different things, because it does if you're a sponsor, like I'm a sponsor, right, you sit there and you're trying to think about how you're building your team, right, with the guidelines that are sent for you. Some people have suggested that maybe, hey, let's throw away the classifications in conference. Do you know what I mean? It's something that's been thrown out. Do you know what I mean? And you build the best possible team you can make. You build it, I build it, this sponsor builds it, that sponsor builds it, Resmondo builds it, Rock Run builds it, everybody does it. However you seed them, we're getting into the minutia there, okay? But then based on how the season goes, people are saying, okay, well, this is it. Major World Series, maybe it's however you classify down to World Series. Now, of course, people are going to say, well, someone's going to, the difference between the 16th best team and the 17th best team, and one's the 1 seeded one, and I don't know. But what's your thoughts on that, to avoid this type of situation, but still encourage people to make their very best team that they possibly can for a conference?
So I think I read this, or I was talking to DW about this once. I can't remember exactly when, but so if you use, this is based on the previous years, like if you have 6 events qualifies you for the Major World Series, right? So if you go by the normal,
it was 7 this past year, but yeah,
yeah, it was 7, but it had been 6 for quite a long time, and the 7th was like your conference championship, and the only people that can move is if you are already in the top 16, all that good stuff. But if you go on, let's use 6 because they've been the consistent one for so long. You have 6 events qualified if you're the major. If you look at the conference schedule, from Vegas to the Smoky, there's an opportunity for what, 14 events?
Yeah, there's a lot in there. Yeah.
So in one way that you could do it is to begin the year, every single team that signs up for the conference starts TBD. Every single team.
Conference TBD.
Every single team.
Yep.
Now, the only negative about that is the Rezzies, they're going to outspend True. Like, they're going to outspend True. So they can bring in the guys. Because, I mean, let's be real here. No matter if anyone wants to say it or not, there is money that it changes hands.
But I mean, you could make that argument in Major League Baseball too. You could argue a $250 million payroll versus a basement payroll. I mean, that's just sports.
If you take the 6 events and you say, all right, so what we're going to do is from Vegas to the Smoky, every single tournament's a random draw. Every tournament. From Smoky beyond, you're seeded. But at the time of the Smoky, if you were in the top, let's say 4 seeds of the conference, you're major that year. If you're from 5 to, let's do to 11, you're double A. And then, whatever structure you got to break down. But then you have a situation that realistically your play determines how good you are.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. I'd be interested to hear about other feedback on that. I mean, that's really, because I'm trying to think too, it's difficult to try to figure out where you want to. I'm not talking about the major teams. I'm talking about anyone that's not a major team. Do you know what I mean? And it's just it's very interesting. Let's bring in a comment here. This is from AU, who just wrote a novel, so we're gonna read AU's novel. He said it would make things so much easier if classification ratings were black and white. I agree with you, AU, on that. Each player gets a number rating, and you can't go over that classification except major. It would take some upfront time to get it right, and at least teams know how to build their teams and don't have to use guidelines. AU, I'm with you on that one. David, I want to hear your opinion on this. I want to give mine really quickly. This is something I've talked about. I've talked about on Hit and Sit as well. I really wish, and again, there's no perfect solution here, right? We know that, right? But I love the idea of not having the interpretation. Yep. I love the idea of saying, okay, maybe players are classified as major, double A, and A, which they're not now, right? It's major, watch, or major, and that's it, and points, right? Do that like the rest of the levels, then come up with a rule, whether it's 4 or 3 players.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Okay, I can have 4 double A guys. Do you know what I mean? Okay, great, for an A team.
Yep.
As soon as I get my 5th guy, I'm now a double A team. Do you know what I mean? It's the same thing at the lower levels. And yes, I agree it would be tricky. It wouldn't be perfect, but I like it because it's black and white. Then you don't get into a decision of subjectivity. You're objective on it. Yep. That's my thought on it. Dave, what's your thoughts on it?
So I agree with that for an 80-20 rule. So 80% of the players in the conference, that's going to be perfect for. Your 20% is going to be the issue. Because, let's use I'll use BJ Folk as an example. BJ, long time, fantastic hitter, Resmondo, major player, unreal, right? Okay, so if you say we're going to go major, gets whoever you want because you're the top level. You can take anybody as whatever. You're on that roster.
Right, doesn't matter.
Whatever. You're on there. Yeah. Let's do away with the major list. Let's do away with the watch list, all that. You are either major, you're double A, you're A, whatever.
Yep.
But you take your major team, and then let's say BJ's been playing, and he's father time starting to catch up to him, and say the next year there's no double A team that says, hey, we want BJ Folk. If you do it by having only the next level above, now he can't play A, so now he has to sit out a year. So if you are going to do that, you have to have a review committee.
Yeah, it should be a reevaluation process or something,
yes,
I guess.
That is extremely unbiased, but like you cannot have like you can't have like the Todd Ankneys of the world on that, like, like just using Todd as an example. You can't have somebody who's got skin in the game, right? But you have to have somebody that knows the player, knows the position, that says, hey, okay, BJ's getting older. Like, no AA team wants to get him this year, but he wants to go back to A. Do we let him reclass down one level so that an A team can use him as a drop?
Right, and wouldn't that be similar to a certain degree of what happens with other levels now, right? Like if we had a guy says, oh, I was on a B team last year, non-conference. I was on the bench the whole year. I'm a B guy. Do you know what I mean? But I'm really more of a, they could say, okay, you're actually C elite or something. Do you know what I mean? So there is some kind of wiggle room or reevaluation process on that. And just a lot of interesting comments that I see coming in here, but it was very interesting to see. I mean, CJ
you would just have to figure out the 20%. That's the biggest thing.
Some would be super clear.
Yes.
Easy.
I mean, it would be straightforward. Like if Greg Cannella tried to say, hey, I want to play AA. No. Go play major.
Not so much.
That kind of thing. But again, the BJ folks, or like myself, like right now, I'm classified AA because we just got bumped. If you use that system. So
right. You would be classified AA. And that makes sense to me.
Yep. But I'm coming back from a major knee surgery.
Well, too bad.
So like
AA.
Should I be double? That kind of thing.
I would put you as AA still. I put you as AA.
I would too, but I'm just saying that's an example.
Yeah, exactly.
And it would be more prevalent on the women's side than the men's side, because let's be real here. Several women, they're going to be out a whole year. Like, I mean, pregnancy happens. All of a sudden, this woman comes back, and not everybody's about it. Your body happens. And you're good. And realistically, in this situation, you need to be black and white throughout both.
Yeah, I agree. And like, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, a lot of people are saying, I see CJ was saying below here that CJ Spink was saying that he thinks conference is made a little more complicated than it needs to be. It needs to be like the other levels. I'm with you there on CJ. Because you can have other awesome benefits of playing at the top level of this game to not have to have a completely different classification system. I'm with you.
Totally agree.
That's my thought. We see kind of like salary cap per team. How do you guys think that would fare? I think you couldn't really do that in softball because you just can't. It's just
now you have to report taxable income and all this stuff, and like that's whole nother ballgame.
Yeah. We'll save that for a different show. We'll bring on an actuary and an accountant. We'll have a fun time. One of the problems we run into, I'm just reading comments here, with teams being forced to move from D to C, C to B, is there's less and less teams for them to play against. It's true. In order to find other teams to play, they have to find sponsors and travel. That's true. The teams fold a lot of times because they can't afford to make that bump. That is absolutely true.
So that particular point, I'll say that's kind of a hot button for me, because here in South Carolina, you have every single weekend, you have either an ISA, a SSAA, a Freedom, a U-Trip, an NSA, a random backyard to play in, right? All within an hour of each other. If all the teams that played D that were competitive, good. Now, if you go 0-2 every weekend, you're not a competitive D team. Mm-hmm. But if you are 2-2, 3-2, or winning tournaments all the time, you are competitive.
I agree.
Like people don't understand that. You are competitive. If you move those teams up and you do it as a group and throughout all associations, like we're talking about, if USSSA was the only place to play, we could do it easily. But because there's 7 or 8 different types of places to play, teams will run and hide because they want to go play somewhere they can win. And then the excuse is, well, we can't find anywhere to play because there's no teams. It's not that there's no teams. Is that the teams that should do this are playing 15 minutes down the road with Joe Blow, because Joe Blow says, hey, I'll take your $325 entry fee because I need it. Like,
all right. So you're saying, what you're saying is that there should be enough teams to play at that level.
Should be.
But it's not because of other circumstances and other people trying to play down or left or right. And I do agree, once you get to a certain point, it's travel or not.
Example of it. Yes, perfect example. So I think it was 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, in North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, and Georgia, they did a Carolina's Elite, it was an Elite Series, right? So the Elite Series allowed anybody to play from CBD, like any class you could sign up, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But they treated it just like the conference. You had like you pay your fee at the beginning of the year. You get X amount of points, you get X amount of tournaments, all that good stuff. And any other teams can sign up. But because of that, we had a consistent. Now it sucks. Yeah, you're going to play the same 7-8 teams every time. But guess what? That same year, we had from North and South Carolina, we had a team finish 5th in the C World. We had a team win the B World and finish 2nd in the B World. A team win the A World. A team finish 2nd in the AA World. All that were majority of Carolina-based players.
Mm-hmm.
But because of that, like we had that whole series that allowed all these teams to go up. And then whenever you let a D team come play, all of a sudden they realize, hey, these extra 3 home runs this game is helping us out.
Right.
Like we're competing because we got 3 extra home runs.
Right. That's
and then
interesting.
They're like, oh crap, now we can wait a second, we can play higher? And it's a novel concept because everybody thinks, oh, if we're not winning every single tournament, we're not a C team. That's not true.
Right.
I mean, if you're in the conference, you're an A team, you're not winning very many conference events. I've been in the conference like 5 years, I've won 3 events.
Right. They're few
like
and far
3
between.
in 5 years.
Right. Right. And
Like,
it's conference is such a different animal with it, you know?
Yep.
It's interesting. I want to give a shout out on this too, because this year I've not actually, other than league, played locally at all, other than league, which we talked about, by the way. I think when you play league, what do you have to go backwards? You have to hit with your wrong hand. You have to hit a corn dog. You tell me, it was insane.
Had so many stupid rules that were put on me when I was on the watch list. Like I was not allowed to play unless I didn't pitch.
Listen to this, folks. Listen to this.
I mean, it was ridiculous. Like it was a USSSA based league. I was told, granted, I appealed a lot of it and they kind of came off several of those different things, but like I was told either you have to bat left-handed if you want to use a composite bat, or you can use a demarine corn dog or an approved wood bat. You cannot pitch. You know, like it was like I'm one guy, I'm playing Wednesday night league ball, and they were worried about me like blowing third base up. And I was like, guys, I got put on the watch list and I hit .517 that year. It's not because I can hit. Like, I mean,
I'm laughing so hard at the corn dog. He had to use a corn dog and he wasn't allowed to pitch.
Yes.
I love it.
It was crazy.
It was funny, but this weekend is going to be fun. For us, or a few of our guys, is so that there's an annual Halloween tournament that's here in St. Louis. And I want to give a shout out to Kay, who puts on a great tournament every year. And it's a fun one. It's for suicide prevention. So it's a great cause. And I'm gonna announce here in a second. We're gonna do some fundraising for this one. But so we've got I call this our remix team. It's a few guys from Siteman, a few guys from here, a few guys from there. We have a little remix team. So we're Man Site. That's what we always call our team for non-that. So Man Site will be in action at the Halloween tournament. A couple interesting things, David, that she does, and Kay has done this over the years. Really good tournament, and it's actually one of the best turnouts that you will get in the St. Louis area every year. One of the reasons is I like her format. What you do is it's open. Yep. Open, okay? Open, right? And there's 20-plus teams already in there. Might be close to 30 when we get into the tournament, and that's, for St. Louis area, very, very good. The way they do it is there's 2 essentially play-in, round-robin, whatever. You're in a tiny bracket. And then you're evaluated, how you do on that. And then you go into a double elim. They call it gold, silver, bronze.
Yep.
Right? And I think it works really well because, let's be honest, there's some teams that come in that are very recreational teams. They're going to get their butt kicked for a little bit. Do you know what I mean? We've all been there, by the way. But then they get to go play at a level that they have chances in the games. Do you know what I mean? Yep. So everyone gets a chance. It's a very nice tournament. It's for a great cause too. That's what's more important. And also, which is fun about once a year, it's unlimited home runs with the band. So we will have, all kinds of bands. But what I'm going to mention here to everyone on this one is that we're going to do $5. I'm going to do $5 donation to the charity for every home run we hit.
Nice.
Last year we hit 80. I believe. I'd like to break that this year. So try to do it. Try to make it an expensive day for me if we can. And I'll throw in a bonus if we win it. So anyway, my point is I want to give a shout out to Kay because it's a fun tournament and also kind of goes with our subject that we're just talking about of just, trying to get more participation in things and people feeling like they can't win, they shouldn't win, whatever, all that kind of stuff. So St. Louis will be fun this weekend.
So
for sure, no doubt.
To touch on that at the same time, so we have a tournament a lot like that in December. It's ran. If you're watching this and you're around the Carolinas, go look up Jeff SCNSA Williams on Facebook. It's a Toys for Tots NSA tournament. No, it's not Toys for Tots. Sorry, St. Jude's.
St. Jude's, got it.
NSA tournament. It's called Bombs Away. And every year he runs this tournament, and you get the same thing. 2 games pool play, 2 games double elimination, all that good stuff. And for every home run hit by any team, any player, any team, it's $2 per home run that he personally donates to St. Jude's.
I love it.
So myself, there's a couple people on here in the little chat, like Juice Gibson. We've been on that. We've been put together teams for that several times. Unfortunately, it's been on the same week as the Toys for Tots out in California for the last couple of years, so it's kind of been hard to make it. But we cost Jeff it was $240 over 6 games one year. It was great.
Yeah,
it's so much fun.
I love it. I'm always going to tell the guys on our group chat, I'm always like, just make it an expensive day for me, okay? Yes. That means a good thing. So it's gonna be fun. I mean, and this is kind of that time of the year, to enjoy ourselves here. Extra fun. It should be fun out there. You know what I mean? So I'm looking forward to that one coming up this weekend. Dave, as we wrap up here in a few minutes, first of all, definitely going to have you back on the show because I know, just bringing your insights in, we could go for 5 hours, but I'd rather cap it so that we can do more in the future on this show for sure. So as we wrap up here, because there's so many subjects we could get into, trust me, we could go down many, many rabbit holes. Any shout outs you want to give on the way out? I know you're a Louisville Slugger player. Is there anything else you want to mention on the way out here before we wrap it up here on today's episode of Siteman Softball Podcast?
I mean, I made my lovely shout out on Facebook not too long ago. Everybody's got to make that novel at the end of the year. But obviously Louisville Slugger, they've taken care of me for the last couple of years. Frank Henry, Matt Brady, TJ Meeks, those guys do great jobs taking care of us. Big shout out again to Mark Patterson, Brandon Miller, Steven Nelson, for bringing me on at the end. Shout out there to, even though I'm still super salty about it, shout out to Leaf and Rick for, their A-World and Bradley Scott. A lot of people, I know you've heard his name a couple times on the hit and sit. Cut through Joel, but Bradley Scott, he put his neck out there for me to get me on Anarchy, and I couldn't ask for a better friend. And then shout out to all the guys on S&E for the year that they put together, and it's been a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to continuing throughout the year, no matter what it may be. And then of course, shout out to y'all, people like you, DW, Rhino, softball can grow through all of this, and making it more available to everyone is a huge thing. And, a lot of people don't realize that there's more out there in softball than just your Tuesday night beer leagues. So we to get the game to expand, because at the end of the day, we don't want to see this game die. And, we want to keep the competitive natures going somehow. So just keep getting your people out there. It means even in these tournaments, we're talking about, if you're putting together a team and you got these random local kids that have always been asking for a shot, go get them. Bring them to play that tournament. It's not going to hurt you. Have a couple beers, let them play, see what they can do. I mean, it's fun times for everybody.
Right, and the sport is changing, and that's one of the things that we have to pay attention to and stay on it. So, David, I appreciate it. In the words of everyone on Competitive Edge, congrats on your success. Coming up, by the way, just a quick little preview for everybody. Like I said, Hit and Sit show tomorrow is going to be 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central. Extra fun fact. Mr. Joel Sanchez is in town in St. Louis, and he's going to be over at my house tomorrow. God help us. We're probably going to have to move after that, but we just moved.
I hope he brought his ukulele.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. So Joel's going to come over, and he's going to be doing the live episode with me here at the house. God help us. God help us on that tomorrow. Next week on the show. Go ahead. What are you saying?
If he did not bring his ukulele, I don't know if you have a place to rent one. Go rent one. That man, he is talented. I'm telling you, you let him. It's gonna be 11 o'clock at night when he starts doing it. But let that man just start playing. It's something else. He's fun.
I would love a serenade. I would love an air serenade. So we'll see how that goes tomorrow on Hit and Sit. Next week, we'll have more on the show. We've got a lot of players re-signed for Siteman Pure. We'll talk about that maybe a little bit next week. In fact, all our players that we were asked back this year have all signed, so that's exciting news for us. And we've got some new people coming in too. We'll be able to reveal some of that over the next few weeks as we sort of go through this chaotic time. I want to thank David Baer for his time here today on the podcast. A reminder on the way out, learningwithnationalleaders.com. Want to get yourself educated, presented by the Siteman Cancer Center. You can get yourself educated, get a friend educated, whatever you want to do, help prevent cancer, learn more about it, my friends. All right, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Absolutely. Bye, guys.